My entitled supervisor insisted I work overtime unpaid, saying, "Loyal employees don't need extra money." When I refused, he sneered, "Good luck getting a promotion now." A month later, his jaw dropped as my promotion was announced, and his own demotion was read right after. This happened a few years ago, but it still sits fresh in my mind like it happened yesterday. I worked as a software developer in a mid-sized tech company based in Austin, Texas. It wasn't a huge company like Google or anything, but it was well known in the area, and we had some solid clients. I had been with the company for 5 years. I showed up on time every day, finished every project ahead of schedule, rarely called in sick, and even helped train new hires when needed. I wasn't trying to be a teacher's pet or anything, I just liked doing my job well. I liked knowing I could be counted on. Things were going fine until Mark became my supervisor. He wasn't hired from outside. He got promoted from within the company, and let's just say, power got to his head real quick. He was in his mid-40s, one of those guys who walked around like he invented hard work. Always bragging about how he paid his dues, working 12-hour days, without complaining, like that was something to be proud of. At first, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he'd chill out. But that hope faded fast. It started with emails. "Hey Alex, need you to stay late today. We've got a tight turnaround. Can you handle this extra feature? It's small, shouldn't take more than a few hours after your shift." That kind of stuff. At first, I said yes. I figured, okay, maybe it's a crunch week. That happens sometimes. But then it became every week. Then several times a week. I was regularly working an extra 2 to 3 hours after my shift ended. And Mark made it very clear this was not overtime I was getting paid for. One Friday, I was tired. It was already a long week, and he stopped by my desk around 5:15 p.m., just as I was shutting down. "Hey, I need you to stay and help fix the deployment errors from QA." I looked at him and said, "It's been a 50-hour week already. I have plans tonight." He didn't even blink. Loyal employees don't need extra money. They just do what needs to be done. I said, "I'm loyal, but I'm not free. That's not how this works." His face twisted, like I just insulted his mother. "You know," he said, arms crossed, "attitudes like that are why some people never move up. Good luck getting a promotion now." Then he turned and walked off like he'd just delivered a mic drop moment. I just sat there. My hands were on my bag. I could feel the anger crawling up my neck. Here's the thing, he didn't know I'd already been quietly talking to HR. I'd saved every email, every message, every instance of unpaid labor he demanded. I'd been careful. I didn't want to go nuclear right away. But that sentence. "Good luck getting a promotion now." That made it personal. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't storm off or send some dramatic email. I just smiled, nodded, and left. The next morning, Saturday, I forwarded my full report to Jessica, our HR rep. She was fair and sharp. She had been with the company for a decade, and people respected her. I sent her the receipts, screenshots, time-stamped messages, records of unpaid hours, and even a few testimonies from coworkers who'd had the same issue but were scared to speak up. She responded that same afternoon. "Let's schedule a time to talk. We've had other reports about Mark, and this might be what we need to take real action." That was all I needed to hear. We spoke the following Monday. I laid everything out in a calm, clear way. Jessica thanked me and told me the company would begin an internal review. I kept my head down and continued working like normal. I didn't speak to Mark unless I had to. Meanwhile, HR quietly started pulling other team members in for check-ins. They asked specific questions. Mark didn't seem to know anything was going on. He still strutted around like a rooster. A couple of coworkers came to me quietly and said they were interviewed too and confirmed my story. A few of them had worse stories. One guy said Mark threatened to write him up for insubordination because he asked to leave on time for his daughter's recital. I kept documenting everything. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. One day, I got a call from Tom, our department head. He asked me to stop by his office. I walked in expecting maybe a warning or maybe another question. Instead, he offered me a seat and said, "We're promoting you to lead developer. Your work speaks for itself, and you've handled everything recently with professionalism." I thanked him, genuinely shocked. He smiled. "There will be a company meeting Monday. The announcement will be public then." I nodded. "Does Mark know?" Tom didn't smile then. "He will." Monday came. Everyone was gathered in the big conference room. Most of the company was there, remote workers on Zoom, managers, assistants, engineers, everyone. Tom stepped up to the front. "Thanks, everyone. We have a few important changes to announce today." He started by going over some business updates, financials, all that. Then he looked over at me. "We're proud to announce that Alex Carter has been promoted to lead developer. He's shown leadership, consistency, and integrity. He's a great example of what we value at this company." People clapped. I heard a few whistles. I looked around and tried to spot Mark. He was sitting near the back. He wasn't clapping. He looked stunned. Just frozen. Then Tom continued. "We also want to inform everyone that we've concluded an internal review regarding employee treatment and labor standards. As a result, Mark Reynolds will be stepping down from his role as supervisor effective immediately." Now there was silence. Tom went on, explaining that Mark would remain in a non-management role but would be undergoing mandatory training and be closely monitored. I didn't look back. I could feel his eyes burning into the back of my head. After the meeting, a few coworkers came up to me, clapped me on the shoulder, and congratulated me. Some of them looked relieved, like they finally saw justice happen. Mark didn't say a word to me that day, or the next. He just started showing up to work, quiet, doing his tasks like a regular staff member. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. But I did make sure I stayed late that Friday on the clock, getting paid, to finish up some last-minute fixes. As I walked past him on the way out, I said, "Have a good weekend." He didn't respond. I didn't care. The weeks after the meeting were strange. Mark kept his head down. For a while. He stopped sending emails. Stopped making demands. He showed up, did his work, and left. No small talk. No fake smiles. It was like someone unplugged his ego. Most of the team adjusted quickly. People seemed lighter. Less tense. The office didn't feel like it was covered in eggshells anymore. But it didn't last. About a month into my new role, weird things started happening. The first time, I didn't think much of it. I had left my desk for lunch. When I came back, my monitor was off. Not asleep, off. Hard powered down. Not something that would happen by accident. Still, I figured maybe IT had pushed an update or something. Then, a few days later, I got an email from QA about a bug in a feature we'd already cleared. I checked the code. The bug wasn't there the day before. I looked through the commit logs. Someone had pushed a change using a general system account, anonymous. No name, just admin update. That account hadn't been used in over a year. It was disabled, or it should have been. I went to IT. They confirmed the account was accessed from inside the building. No remote login. Someone physically used a machine in our office. I asked them to quietly monitor logins and access points. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't point fingers. But something felt wrong. My gut wouldn't let it go. A week later, another issue popped up. This time, a file on our shared drive disappeared. A document we needed for a client call. Gone. Just poof. And that's when I knew. It wasn't random. Someone was messing with me. Subtle, but enough to cause delays. To make me look sloppy. I pulled up security camera logs with IT's help. They had footage from the day the bug was injected. Around 6:43 p.m., long after most people had left, someone walked into the dev bay. It was Mark. He looked around. Sat at a workstation that wasn't his. Logged in. 10 minutes later, he left. No way to prove exactly what he did. But the timing? It lined up too perfectly. I didn't say anything to him. Again. I went back to Jessica in HR. I showed her everything. The access logs, the bug timing, the security footage. Her jaw clenched as she watched the clip. "This needs to go to legal," she said quietly. I nodded. They opened a new investigation. But this time, it wasn't quiet. Word started to spread. People noticed Mark wasn't at his desk one morning. Then another. By the third day, whispers turned into open talk. Did he get suspended? I heard he hacked into the system. Is he getting fired? I kept my mouth shut. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, I was called into a meeting. This time, it wasn't just HR. It was HR, legal, and Tom. Jessica looked tired. Tom looked angry. Legal was polite, cold. They laid it all out, what they found, what Mark had been doing. He had been using leftover admin credentials to access files he shouldn't even be near. Injecting small errors, deleting files, leaving just enough of a mess to cast out without getting caught. He'd even set up an auto-delete command in the logs to cover his tracks. It didn't work. He's been terminated, Tom said flatly. Effective immediately. I sat there, staring at the table. I thought I'd feel something. Relief, maybe. Satisfaction. But I didn't. Not yet. Because just when I thought it was over, legal leaned forward and said, "There's something else you need to see." They handed me a printed email. It wasn't addressed to me. It was from Mark. Sent to a third-party recruiter. A company we had been trying to partner with. In the email, Mark said I was unstable, difficult to work with, only promoted because of HR favoritism. He called me a risk. Said the company would regret putting him in charge. He sent it 2 weeks after my promotion. It was sent using his personal email. But it was signed with our company name. Our company title. He tried to ruin my reputation outside the company. I just stared at the paper. Jessica said, "We're drafting a cease and desist. He's banned from contacting any clients or affiliates. If he continues, we'll sue." Tom added, "You don't need to respond to anything. We've got your back." I thanked them and left the room. I walked out of the building that day feeling heavier. He hadn't just tried to mess with my code. He tried to take my name down with him. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Like the calm before another storm. And that's when I got the email. Not from Mark. From his brother. The email from his brother was short. Just 2 lines. "You made a big mistake crossing him. You should have kept your mouth shut." It came from a generic Gmail address. No signature, nothing official, but the last name matched Mark's. I recognized it from an old email chain where Mark copied a family member about a fundraiser our company supported. I don't forget stuff like that. At first, I wasn't even sure it was real. It felt weird. Why would his brother care? Why get involved at all? But then it got weirder. My LinkedIn profile started getting odd views. Fake names. Blank profiles. A bunch of them, all within hours. My phone buzzed constantly, numbers from out of state, hang-ups, silent voicemails. It didn't feel random. It felt like a pattern. Like someone was trying to shake me. Or dig. One night I came home and noticed something off about my car. A small scratch down the passenger side door. Nothing dramatic, but fresh. Too fresh. I couldn't prove it was connected, but the timing was too convenient. I filed a police report just in case, mostly to get it on record. I told HR about the email. I forwarded it, along with the screenshot of the sender's profile. Jessica called me 15 minutes later. "Alex, we'll take care of it," she said firmly. "You've done nothing wrong. This is crossing a line now." I wasn't scared yet, but I was tired. The whole thing had turned into something dark and personal, and I was just trying to do my damn job. The company involved legal again. They reached out to the email address with a formal cease and desist, warning them that any further contact would result in legal action. Then they escalated it, had our security team do a background check to see if there was any known connection between this guy and our systems. And that's when they found something that changed everything. Apparently, Mark hadn't acted alone. IT found access logs from 2 separate machines during the tampering incidents. 2 distinct IPs, both located inside the company network, just minutes apart. One belonged to Mark's workstation. The other? It belonged to a temporary contractor we'd brought on board 3 months earlier. A back-end dev named Kevin. Kevin had always been quiet. Mostly worked from a laptop, kept to himself. People thought he was just introverted. Turns out Mark had recruited him, coached him even, to access files and make subtle changes. Nothing big enough to get caught. Just enough to slow things down and cause questions. According to logs, Kevin had deleted test cases, overwritten notes, and even rerouted some of the alerts for bug reports so they wouldn't be flagged in time. When confronted, Kevin panicked and confessed everything. Said Mark told him it was harmless, just leveling the playing field after being wrongfully demoted. Jessica told me this during our next meeting. Her voice had lost its usual calm tone. This wasn't just about being bitter. He wanted to prove you couldn't lead. That your promotion was a mistake. Kevin was fired on the spot. Security escorted him out. His badge deactivated, his credentials wiped. The company went into lockdown mode. They did a full audit on all systems. I worked 12-hour days that week, not because anyone made me, but because I wanted to. I wasn't going to let someone burn down what I'd built. But it still wasn't over. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. Private number. I usually don't answer those, but something made me pick up. Silence. Then breathing. Then a voice, low and quiet. You think this is over, don't you? Click. My hands were shaking. I reported it immediately. Police opened a file. They couldn't trace the number. It was spoofed, but the pattern was now undeniable. This wasn't just petty revenge. This was harassment. Retaliation. Obsession. The company brought in private security. Not just for me, but to sweep through digital trails and physical safety. I was given the option to work remote for a few weeks. I took it. And just when things started to settle, I got an unexpected invitation. A job offer. From a rival firm. Bigger company. More money. Senior position. But here's the twist. They reached out directly after my name came up in some online tech forums. They'd seen posts discussing the investigation. Not rumors. Actual threads, anonymously posted, detailing internal company problems, hinting that management promoted a problem employee who backstabbed his supervisor. The timing was too precise. The language too familiar. Mark was trying to destroy my future from the shadows. But he didn't know something I had just learned. Our company had been monitoring external web traffic tied to former employee accounts. And they found something. The forums were being posted from an IP address linked to a coffee shop just 10 minutes from Mark's apartment. At the same time, Mark's personal device pinged a Bluetooth signal from that exact location. He was still at it. Still trying to drag me down, anonymously this time. He wasn't just mad. He was obsessed. Jessica called me. Alex, she said slowly. Do you want to press charges? I sat in silence, staring at the wall. The part of me that wanted peace said no. Let it go. Move on. But the part of me that lived through those months, that watched someone try to destroy everything I worked for, that part wasn't ready to forgive. I said yes. I wanted to press charges. Not just for the harassment. Not just for the threats. But for everything, every sleepless night, every lie he planted, every moment I doubted myself because of him. I wanted him to feel the consequences, the real ones. Not just a demotion. Not just a company email. I wanted the world to know what kind of man he really was. The company backed me. So did legal. Turns out, they'd had enough of him, too. And now that they had more than just HR complaints, now that they had evidence of him attempting to damage their business, they were all in. We filed for harassment, defamation, unauthorized system access, and interference with a business relationship. The day the police showed up at his apartment, he was online, posting on those forums again. I saw the post. The timestamp matched the moment his door was knocked on. He was arrested. They took his laptop, his phone, everything. And what they found? It made things worse for him. Not only had he been posting those lies, but he had also been using fake LinkedIn accounts to message recruiters I'd spoken with, pretending to be ex-employees, saying I was unstable, a bully, a thief. One recruiter forwarded a message to me and said, "This seemed off, just wanted to check." That was the nail in his professional coffin. After his arrest, the company held an emergency all-hands meeting. Tom stood at the front of the room. His face was hard. "Let me be clear," he said. "This company will never protect people who try to destroy others from the shadows. We support Alex. We stand by what's right." Applause followed. I didn't smile. I just sat there, numb. The legal process dragged on. Mark pled guilty to avoid jail time, but was handed a long list of penalties, fines, mandated therapy, and a court order to stay far away from me and the company. He lost his ability to work in the industry. Word got around fast. His name became poison in hiring circles. And Kevin? The quiet guy who helped him? He tried to move to another city, applied for tech jobs out west. But companies talk, and his name was on that audit report. Every hiring manager who saw it passed him over. He ended up working part-time gigs that had nothing to do with code. I thought that would be the end of it. But the truth is, I didn't come out of this clean either. I let it go on too long before saying something. I tried to be the bigger person for months, and during that time, others got hurt too. Coworkers who also suffered under Mark's abuse. People who kept their heads down because they were scared, and I could have spoken up sooner. That's on me. And even when I won, when I got the title, the money, the respect, I didn't feel proud. I felt worn down. Angry. Bitter. I had fought fire with fire, and though I had justice, I didn't feel whole. A few weeks later, I walked into the office late on a Friday. Just needed to grab a charger I left behind. I passed by the empty break room where I once sat through HR meetings, and I saw myself in the window's reflection. Same person, just more tired. I got promoted. I kept my job, but I lost a part of myself in the process. That's the real story. You don't go through something like this without scars. But if there's one thing I did learn, it's that people like Mark count on your silence. They depend on it. And once you break that silence, their power disappears. He took his shot. And I made sure it was the last one he ever got. That's how it ended. Not with a scream. Not with a bang. Just silence. And his name, erased from every screen in that building. Like he was never there at all. I left the office that night and walked into the dark, cool Austin air. And for the first time in months, I actually breathed.